Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. Welcome back to Thoughts and Coffee with myself, Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I am the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain, as well as the founder and host of the Blended podcast as well. And I am super excited to be back with you here this morning. Audrey is going to be my guest in just a few minutes. But as always, we've got a few things that we want to go through before we get to bringing Audrey up on stage. So the first thing that I want to talk about is we have a brand new website. Guys, go and check it out. We've been fiddling with it for the last couple of months, and now I think we've almost got it right. It should be completely perfect within the next 24 hours, but I wanted to give you a bit of a sneak peek. We've got Let's Talk Supply Chain, we've got Blended, we've got Asia Pack, Woman in Supply Chain, all of our live shows, we've got all of our video content as well on this brand new website. And look, there's Audrey. See, we do get to meet in person sometimes. You can read all about my story. You can get our supply chain dictionary and so much more. You can listen, watch, and read. You can subscribe. You can also shop with us as well. We've got some great merch for the supply chainer in your life for Christmas. So go and check that out as well. So, our episode of this week is, because it's the first Monday of the month, it's our Woman in Supply Chain episode. And we are proud to feature Donna from Coupa. One of the things that I'm going to tell you about this episode is she is one incredible leader. And there's so many great tidbits that she shares with us in this episode, not only about her journey, but about her team and how she leads her team and the advice that she has for other leaders in supply chain as well. So you don't want to go and miss out on that. Right now, it is over on Apple and Spotify. We will have this up on our website within the end of the day as well. What else are we talking about? Oh, I should probably tell you, congratulations to Larry Lung. He is in the audience and he is our giveaway. He is the winner of our giveaway for October, and he won our Let's Talk Supply Chain mug. So congratulations on that, Larry. What else is happening? We've got some events coming up. So this Friday, we've got Log Tech Live, and Eric is going live with an entrepreneur, a tech entrepreneur in the last mile delivery space in supply chain. This is going to be great. I've been wanting to have them on the show for a really, really long time, and it's going to be a great, great discussion. Plus, you're going to be able to learn more about the buzzwords of the month, and he's going to be talking to you about what is going on in this crazy supply chain. Every third Wednesday, we've got Purpose, Planet, and Profit with Topple. Every fourth Thursday, we've got Coming in Hot with Abby Baird. She actually just went live last week and had Adebayo as her guest, and they had some amazing conversations. So you can go and check out all of those episodes over on the Let's Talk Supply Chain YouTube. And we've got some other events coming up. Where are they? So we've got Blue Sky with Procurement Foundry. That is happening November 18th. So come and join us there. We've also got a webinar with E2 Open, Managing Disruptions, Let the Data Speak. That one is November 10th at 11 a.m. Eastern. You're going to have to go and register for that. So AJ, can you put the link to this particular post in the comments so that people can go and get the registration link? And then next week, no, actually this week, it's this Thursday, I am live with the Canadian Health Food Association for a webinar about sustainable packaging. So I can't wait for that one. Corey is a dynamite. If you don't follow him on TikTok, he's got some really, really great videos. So go and check out Corey Connors on, I think it's Corrugated over on TikTok. And we do post on our Instagram, my personal Instagram and Let's Talk Supply Chain Instagram, some of his TikTok stories as well. So you might have seen that already. And one last thing before we bring Audrey up, because there are so many crazy things happening in supply chain right now that we've got a lot to talk about. But I do want to bring up Blended. Go and follow the Blended page. AJ will put the link in the comments. We are working to make more of a visible impact in diversity, equity, inclusion up on stages and in audiences at conferences in 2022. We are about to roll out a GoFundMe page. We are also going to be looking for corporate sponsors as well. And we're going to be looking for you to apply, because we're going to have scholarships for people that want to speak, but the barrier to entry is like travel costs and things like that. So we definitely want you to go and follow that page. We have a lot that's going to be coming out very, very soon. And I think last but not least, I can't not mention this. I released my first ever LinkedIn newsletter. So that's right. If you're following me on LinkedIn, I'm going to be doing a monthly newsletter called The Monthly Hustle, and we're going to be talking all things leadership, supply chain, diversity and inclusion, sustainability. So if you haven't gone to subscribe to that, go and subscribe to that now. AJ is also going to put the link in there as well. All right. Well, without further ado, Audrey, you're joining me up on stage whether you are ready or not. We're a little bit early for you, but that's okay. We got lots to talk about. How are you this morning?
Oh, I'm a shipper in a supply chain chaos world. So very exciting. Oh, it's Jezelina, our friend.
I know. We've got lots of great people that are joining us today over here on Let's Talk Supply Chain. Also
Yeah.
on my personal LinkedIn
Oh,
is
it's
not working.
Jonathan.
So anyways,
As it
that
does.
happens sometimes. So it's for anybody who doesn't know you.
Oh, right. So
Go
my
ahead.
name is Audrey Ross. I'm an logistics and custom specialist from Orchard Custom Beauty. Um, yeah, what do I do? International trade. I'm a trade geek. Right now I'm pretty infamous because I have 2 containers on the Zim Kingston, which is on fire. So,
Is it still on
getting
fire?
no, I think it's out. I think
Okay.
it's out. And I got a little update on
Yeah,
that.
can you tell us about that update? Because one of
Sure.
the things that I noticed from your update is the amount of times they use the words general average. I think I could count on my
Yeah.
hand, just in the portion that I could see, that they at least mentioned it 5 times.
They want to make sure that you know that they're going to do general average, and that's what's happening. In that you're not getting your money, you're probably going to have to pay.
Can
Uh,
you can you can you explain for everybody that
sure.
doesn't know what that actually means?
Yeah. So to start, the Zim Kingston is a vessel that was carrying about 1,925 containers just off the coast of Vancouver. It was waiting due to port congestion. Now they're thinking that maybe some of the issue was caused by it being waiting out sort of in the more ocean space instead of sort of a little closer to Vancouver. And so it due to the bad weather, about 9-meter waves, it dropped what they thought was about 40 containers, and in that action seemed to cause a bit of a fire on one section of the ship, and then that fire kind of went on for a little bit, and now we're at the stage where containers are dropping up on shore. They just did a massive shoreline cleanup, I think yesterday or the day before, of refrigerators. So they have to helicopter them off the shore because that northern part of BC is a little bit remote and rocky.
Right.
So they're literally coming in and like they have people on the ground to like gather everything up, and then they bag it, and the helicopter takes it by bag
Wow.
off the coast. Like, but like not like essentially I'm sure they're not taking like 15 fridges at a time. Like it's like pretty
Well,
slow
people need
going.
their fridges. Like, let me tell you, the backlog of
Yeah.
appliances
I don't
is
know if you want
crazy.
it
So
now.
I
You
mean, maybe not, but hopefully
check
they can
those
repair
shelves.
it. Maybe it's a refurbished and they can get it sooner. I don't know.
Yeah, hopefully.
People
Hopefully.
need a fridge.
Yeah. So as it turns out, it wasn't 40 containers. It was 109. I got an update yesterday. One was that my containers on board, I have 2 containers. One container is on board. They don't know if it's damaged or if it's any good, but it's on the ship. And the second forwarder on the other container told me, gave me the notice from Zim and from the surveyors that it's now in general average. And general average means that based on all of the expenses that they're going to incur, they can't afford, they can't afford any of these costs. And so everyone who was part, and that's what I thought too, Devin. That was my reading, but apparently not. They seem to be applying it. Whether there's going to be a bunch of lawyers that get involved and sort out the feasibility of that claim, we'll see. So that's where we're at. So ultimately, instead of me either having damaged or overboard and I can make an insurance claim, what might happen is that whoever the cargo owners are may end up having to pay a fee or a charge to help cover the damages and losses that are caused by this situation that was completely out of our control. So
Wow. Well,
yeah,
that's a lot. And I mean, so some of the crazy things, and we have to talk about this because some of the crazy things that I am hearing right now is I just got a notice from one of the freight forwarders that there's an emergency fee being charged at the Port of LA and the Port of Long Beach. So if your container is 9+ days at the terminal, or
yeah,
if it's 3 days at rail,
yeah,
which I don't know if you can necessarily control people, but it's $100 a container, and then I think it goes up from
yeah,
there how many
yeah,
days it actually stays there, which is crazy, and that came all the way down from the Biden administration. And then, Sam, who's in the audience today, we were just messaging back and forth about demurrage and detention because this is a really, really big topic right now. And she was saying that there's so much demurrage and detention that I think it's the Port of Philadelphia, Sam, help me out here, that they are giving shippers credit to be able to pay the demurrage and detention. Because previous to this, it was all COD, right?
yeah.
But because there's so much being incurred,
They
they're
just
offering credit because the shippers can't afford it.
that's a
So
big
that,
risk, Sarah, is that people will abandon their cargo because my cargo was like, it was barely worth the cost of the transport of container that
mm,
we're paying now because we're paying such high rates on containers. So say you've just paid $25,000 for the container,
yeah,
you might have paid 20. I mean, hopefully you're selling some high item goods and they're more valuable. But if your stuff on the inside of that container was say 25,000 and you've already paid 25,000 to move it and then they want you to pay another $6,000 on top of it, like at what point are you like just
I
cancel
don't
the
need it.
order? So
I don't
like,
need it.
it's
Oh,
a
there
big
you go.
concern.
Sam came to the rescue. Hi, yes, saw it on a job listing to help handle it, which is crazy. I mean, we have a labor shortage, but hopefully somebody can get in
If you
there and
want a
really
new
help.
job in supply chain, if you want that niche supply chain market right now, it's going to be figuring that out.
Well, and the other thing that we're hearing is that brands are offering people that they know, like people that have worked with them
Trusted.
before, business class tickets to Japan, okay, or the Far East, so China, to go over there, pick up merchandise,
Yeah.
and bring it
Yeah.
back because
Yeah.
of the supply chain issues, and they need to get this products in the hands of either athletes, they need it on the shelves. I think there's two big brands that are looking to charter a what is it, 747?
767, I think it was the big one.
767 together once a week just to get their product over here in time for the holidays as well. So there are some crazy, crazy stories that are coming out of retail right now to, you know, bypass, I guess, some of the challenges that we're having in supply chain, especially, you don't want to be sitting at the Port of LA and the Port of Long Beach in that water.
No.
So, anyways, so before we get to our supply
Yeah.
chain, what are we talking about today? We're not going to do the question of the week today because we don't have enough time. We want to get to our supply chain stories. But
Okay.
this particular one got a lot of traction on Sunday, and I just want to bring it up because I think it's really important. It resonated with a lot of people. And what I said in my post on Sunday was behind every successful woman is a tribe of other successful women who have her back. And this is super, super important. I talk about this all the time is that we do need to empower each other. We do need to support each other. And too many times we do get on the wrong ends of conversations with each other. And so just
Mhm.
wanted to resonate or just wanted to bring this back, put it forefront and really say, we've got to have each other's back. So let's do it. And in the comments, I mean, look, we've got 115 reactions. We've got
Yes.
57 comments. We had a bunch of women weigh in and just start naming people that have had their back and have supported them and all that kind of stuff. And so it was really kind of a full circle moment on Sunday when we posted this. Any quick thoughts before we go on to supply chain?
Yeah, I think there's been in sort of the history of women in the workforce, there's been a lot of scarcity mindset. Like if I get in, then I can't, no one else can get in. If I'm the only woman in the room, then the risk is that that's it. There's only room for one of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're all figuring out that there's room for all of us. And the way to get more of us in is to actually support each other. And not just by like, and it's cheerleading, it's highlighting, it's promoting, but it's also, providing opportunities, right? So
And also promoting ourselves. One of the
there's
most
that too.
difficult things I have with the Woman in Supply Chain series is that the women that I feature
Yeah.
don't feel like they should be promoting their
They want to
episode
brag. Yeah.
or their blog because they don't want to look like they're bragging.
Yeah.
Let's brag, people.
Yeah.
Let's tell everybody this is happening. Let's share our journeys with the world because people want to hear about it.
Yeah.
So, anyways, just before we get on to our supply chain stories, I need to pull this up because Jeffrey says, I just sourced 300 Harry Potter magic supply chain books.
I'll
Jeffrey,
take one.
if this is really a thing, I mean, you might have a big business here because there are a lot of shippers like Audrey that definitely want to have a wand to make all of this go away. All right, so our first story comes from the Daily Mail. I don't read the Daily Mail that much. However, my mom sent me this article, I think, and I wanted to highlight it because a lot of times you and I are talking about what's happening on the ocean freight side, but
Right.
obviously we have a huge disconnect on the warehousing side. We also have a huge disconnect on the trucking side, which is causing also a lot of these supply chain challenges. So in this particular article, and I'm not going to scroll all the way through because Daily Mail has some questionable things on the actual page, but I will highlight this particular part, which says haulage firms offer $100,000 salary and $15,000 in bonuses to lure 80,000 truckers. Now you might be thinking, okay, 80,000 truckers is a lot and we need them right now. We don't need them necessarily at this particular moment, like today. But what they're saying is that 600,000 truckers are going to retire by 2028. And so they want to start now, obviously, by recruiting more truck drivers and figuring out how to do that because that's going to leave us with a massive gap. And so we need to do that over the next, what is that, 6 years? I mean, that's not a lot of time. And so that's where they come up with that $80,000 number. What do you think about this, Audrey?
Yeah, and I think we keep hearing about a trucker shortage, and I think again, it comes down to, is it a labor shortage or is it a work conditions issue where it's not the most accommodating or friendly place to work? And I think we've heard, based on some of the conversations around the port pickups and drop-offs, that there's a lot of wait time. A lot of drivers get paid turn by turn. So that might be your starting or what you sort of expect, but then the day-to-day reality sets in. If that's based on you doing 6 turns in a day, and at this point you can do 1, it's going to be a real disappointment. Fun thing I heard from my CEO, Jennifer, is that they're doing, she linked an article that they're doing trucking from China to Europe to try and skip ocean transport. So trucking is definitely a hot topic right now.
That's
Whether
crazy.
you're
Well,
trying to get work or trying to move goods.
yeah, no kidding. Well, Jeffrey says we need to clear up the chassis problems and the empty container returns.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you say that because in this particular article, so anyways, I'll leave part of that for just a minute. But what they're saying is the congestion of empty containers. So I think we need to get clear on what exactly are the supply chain challenges. Because in this particular article, they're like, it's not a driver shortage, it's a congestion of empty containers. And then you've got Jeffrey here, quite true. It's chassis problems and empty container returns. But then we're also talking about no room to put containers. And then we're also talking about no place to put product in warehouse. So I feel like we talk about the different challenges very segmented, and it could be because we come from that kind of mentality, but I think we definitely need to look at a solution as a whole, and really come to terms with what exactly are the challenges that we're going through right now and list them in order of kind of that chain, right, that we talk about in supply chain is from supplier to delivery to the customer. What are those gaps? What are those challenges? And how can we make
is it overall a consumption issue?
Well, that too.
And an expectation issue of that customers expect next day.
We're changing the world
today. Waiting, right? So
We're definitely
Love
changing the
it.
world today just with this conversation. But what they also said in this article was that steamship lines are charging for empties. Have you heard of that? Because I wasn't quite sure, like,
Oh
what are
yeah.
they charging for?
They're charging if you don't return it back, except they have no room to
But
accept
they
it.
have no room, and
Right.
they're
They're
not
still
sending them
charging.
back right away,
Yeah.
but they're
That's
charging.
that's why shippers are a very unhappy lot right now, because you're charged if it's waiting to come off. You're charged if it's waiting to be even though you're like, it's here, take it back. They're like, we can't. So we'll charge you every day that you have it, even though it's has something like you don't want it. So
Wow, that's crazy. Well, another thing on this article, just before we go to the next one, head of California Trucking says there's a state of emergency. They want to call a state of emergency around trucking, which is crazy. All right. So, our next article, this one comes from TechCrunch, which I thought was interesting. TechCrunch talking about supply chains. We talk a lot about supply chain tech, but TechCrunch is talking about supply chain tech. And they're talking about decoupling tech supply chains would do more harm than good. And so most of this article does talk about the relationship between China and the US. And it talks a lot about how it has transitioned, I think, from like 2% all the way to like 25% of
yeah.
our goods are made in China, or at least in the US, are made in China as of today. And it's only going up, they feel. I mean, obviously, we'll have to see where all the shippers kind of lie with manufacturing once we can get a handle on what that strategy is going to look like and where they're going to take risks and where they're not going to take risks. I mean, that's a conversation for a whole other day. But this particular article talks about the relationship, it talks about the tariffs, and it talks about how we need, or the US needs to be extremely careful with that particular relationship from a tech standpoint, because that relationship, not necessarily on the finished product goods, but on technology, it could make a really, really big impact on the US technology sector. What did you think about this? You know a lot more about policy and government and all that kind of stuff. We don't want to get too far into politics,
Yeah.
but I'd like to hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I think we're in an interesting stage where, I mean, overall there's been a lot of talk. We'd moved throughout the 90s and throughout, the last century into this mode of globalization, where we were sort of just becoming more and more collaborative. And then the last, say, I don't know, 3 to 5, we've been doing this, oh no, we're going to do more localized and more domestic, national kind of progress, which is interesting. And I think this article highlights that, there's the risk is that we've become so integrated that then to decouple, how can you really think through everything that you've integrated? And there are certain materials and processes and skilled labor that exist in certain areas, because it's been developed and fostered for the last, I don't know, decade, 20 years.
Yeah.
And how are you going to replicate that in a world that expects things very quickly? So this is a great read. But yeah, I won't get too into that.
Too into politics. She has to stop
Policy.
there.
Yeah.
Well, this part of the particular article is something that I want to highlight. It asks some
Yeah.
very, very good questions. So if you're working with China, I think that you might want to ask yourself some of these questions when you're looking at potentially moving manufacturing or upping manufacturing in China. There's a bunch of questions in this particular section about what it's necessarily going to mean to the US economy and the US tech sector. And then from there, it'll also show you what the impact could be on your particular organization as well. So the article is in the comments, so go and definitely check that out. I just want to go back to our first supply chain story. And Jeffrey, you are making me laugh this morning. Maybe we should stack empty containers in front of the carrier's corporate office. Do you think they'll charge us for it at that point?
Of course. Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Do you think still, if we like, I mean, yeah, you can't box them in. It's a fire.
I'm paying a surcharge because it shipped in August. I'm paying an LCL surcharge because I picked LCL instead of FCL, even though FCL wasn't available to me. Yeah, they're gonna charge you for everything right now. And now I get $100 after 9 days at the Port of LA. So
well, and Jeffrey, the news of the day is that if we stack containers higher, we're going to save Christmas.
Well, that solves
So
the problem.
this is just another solution. This is another great
And
solution,
the solution.
stacking empty containers. So apparently Jeffrey says the truckers do that in Europe. I had no idea.
But in Europe, the firemen fight the police, and when they have a strike, I mean,
Okay.
I can't picture Los Angeles. Maybe.
Maybe. I mean, if it's going to save Christmas, I mean, we just need to do it.
Yeah, it's the most important thing. Help Santa.
Anyways, okay. So our last article is about Google. And you're probably wondering, well, what the hell does Google have to do with supply chain? Well, it's got everything to do with supply chain. One of my favorite people is over there in their supply chain division and heads it up. And this particular article is connected to sustainability. And obviously, you guys know I just released my LinkedIn learning course called Fundamentals of Sustainable Supply Chains. We're getting some amazing feedback. And so sustainability is definitely a topic that is close to my heart. But what I thought this article really provides to you as supply chain professionals and to organizations is something to think about when you're thinking about your sustainability strategy. Because if Google is doing this, and if Google is segmenting their content based on sustainability, and they're segmenting their content based on products that are sustainable, you can no longer ignore this.
Mm-hmm.
Is my biggest takeaway from this particular article. So I guess we should get into it. So Google has been carbon neutral since 2007. They're also talking about how they want to be carbon free by 2030. Okay. And what they're doing is they are updating 3 of their product categories. So the search function, they're going to prioritize high quality info on climate change. I have some questions about that, but we can talk about that in a minute. They're also going to prioritize eco-friendly products. The travel, they are going to provide you with the routes that are most sustainable, not only by car, but also by air as well. And then in the home, they're going to be giving you the optimization of heating and cooling based on when the renewable energy is the most available on the grid. So definitely a lot to think about here. What did you think about this? And then I'll talk about the prioritizing high quality content.
Yeah, that's like a small piece of it. No, I think it's fascinating. I think Google as a company is really trying to make sure that it's a full span approach. So their own offices, their business activities, are getting sustainable. But this is helping helping their customer, helping their user, which is an integrated and more knowledge on what's happening inside their tools, just building it inside their tools, which is I think what we're going to see in the next 3 to 5 is that you'll see a lot more businesses. I'm starting to see it on business quotes where we're quoting ship methods based on CO2 output, not just what the cost of the good is, right? But what that impact is to the environment. So I think it's coming right across the board, and it's good that Google's kind of at the front of that.
Absolutely. But I mean, for companies that are kind of on the fence or not necessarily shifting that sustainability strategy into gear, I mean, if Google is going to prioritize products that are eco-friendly, I mean, it's definitely something that you've got to be on board with, and you can get ahead of it, right? Yeah. You can get ahead of it by doing something today about it as well. Yeah. So one of the questions that I have about prioritizing high quality content is how are you going to do that, Google? I mean, let's be honest here. YouTube, 20% of the top info on climate change is actually misinformation.
Yeah.
So how are you going to do that? Because, high quality information on climate change, I mean, that's going to take a whole team to try to dig through and figure out who's right, who's wrong, and the information that they're putting out there is actually not misinformation.
Yeah. And I think we have to expect it's like none of it's going to be 100%, because it's a science, and the more information you have, the more it changes. But, if you can get to something like a 90 to 95% accuracy, then I think your user will feel more comfortable and trustworthy. But right now, like, we kind of have an idea of how, when you Google something, what comes to the top, what comes up first, right? And it's not necessarily, the most verified and accurate information comes to the top. It's the most selected or the most, So I mean that piece is always is an interesting topic for them, not just on climate change, but on every single other kind of hot button cultural or social policy topic. But
Absolutely. So if you haven't started on your supply chain strategy or sustainability strategy,
yeah,
go and take my course, Fundamentals of Sustainable
yeah,
Supply Chains, just to get started. I mean,
yeah,
it's just laying the foundation to help you get started. I appreciate everybody for joining us today. We are 4 seconds away, 3 seconds away. Audrey, thank you so much for joining me.
thanks.
And we've got some amazing guests coming up next week as well. So we will be back here 10 a.m. Eastern on